So, hi everyone, my name is Cristian Amaya, as Nelson so eloquently introduced me. And this talk is called SQL Murder Party. It is quite a different name in comparison to others here in the Learning Phase from Factor. This idea came about because some years ago I heard that someone did a murder mystery to teach SQL, and I thought that was an interesting idea to teach this wonderful tool. So I wanted to do a similar approach and introduce people with something that is quite interactive and more nuanced than just teaching you the basics and that's all. So let's start. Okay, so first we will discuss a little bit about the agenda. First, I will give a general introduction about myself. Then we will go about some of the objectives of this workshop. Then I will give a brief introduction into SQL and some of the things that we will use to solve the case. Then we will have the formal introduction of the case SQL Murder Party. And then we will have the conclusion of the case and some conclusions for this talk. And finally, a Q&A session where I will answer some of the doubts that you have. So about myself, my name is Cristian Amaya. I'm original from Colombian. I'm from Bogota. In terms of my professional profile, I'm a data engineer and a data scientist here on Factor. I have 1 year with Factor right now. I have expertise that spans multiple areas of knowledge. The main ones are software development and machine learning. And I have been involved in a variety of projects with healthcare, finance, and image processing being some of the strong ones, but also non-structured data. Okay, so what are the goals for this workshop and like what we are going to learn here? The main goal is through the use of a fictional criminal case and some live coding that we are going to do in this presentation. We aim to introduce you to the fundamentals and the power of SQL. If you don't know what SQL is, don't worry, we will go a little bit into what SQL is. What we are going to learn basically is relational tables. What are those? Databases and some basics of SQL. So first, we're going to dive into SQL 101, a brief introduction into what is SQL. But first, we are going to talk about relational tables. So I don't know if I can see the chat. Does anyone know what a relational table is? Try to see the chat here.
Juan Diego says that yes.
Okay. Well, we can say that a relational table is a way to structure data into rows and columns, in which the rows represent individuals and the columns attributes that we can give to those individuals. So this is pretty common for us in Excel, for example. That is a tool that is widely used in any industry. Here is an example. We have a basic table, where we have individuals and some of the characteristics of those individuals, such as the name, the age, and the profession that they use, or of who they are. So as we said before, we have rows that represent a single individual. For example, this row is for Bob. So we know that Bob is that individual. He has 15, he's 15, and he's a student. And if we go with columns, we know that this particular column is based for the ages of the people in this table. When we mention relationships in tables, we are talking about the fact that we can relate things in the same row based on the columns. So we are Bob is related to his age and his occupation, Anna is related to to her age and her occupation, and so forth and so forth. So we are going to talk a little bit about some examples. So the most basic one is an Excel spreadsheet where we have, in this case, expenses and profits and an income table. So here we can have a date column, an income column, expenses and profits, and we can see that each one of those rows is an individual event. It doesn't have to be a person. It has to be different, something that is differentiable of the others records. We also have, for example, a basic table that is for orders. For example, one that has an order ID, an order date, a product ID, and an amount. So some key aspects to take into account when you are creating relational tables is that you need a primary key. What is a primary key is that is a column that helps us distinguish between records and to look the information about that record in other tables. So I know it's a little bit abstract, but we can think about it like our national ID or DNA, or in Colombia we have the cédula. That is a document that distinguishes you between all Colombians because it's a very specific number that doesn't repeat. We also have, for example, in a bank contest, the account number, or if, for example, we have some manufacturing, we can use the serial number as the primary key. It doesn't have to be only one column. It also can be multiple, and that this is a little bit more advanced, but it's good to know. Then we have the foreign keys, which are references to other tables that you store in your current table. So for example, in the previous table, we have an order ID, but we also have the product ID. So this helps us relate to the product table. So this order has this product, and if we go to search this product with this ID in the product table, we will find all the information that we want about the product. This helps us a lot to not be redundant with the information, not duplicate the information, like have a table that has the product name, the value of the product, but you have individual tables that have the information you need, and you can relate them with the foreign keys. The relationships can be one-to-one or one-to-many, or even optional. You can even not put a foreign key in a given record. So now we are going to go into databases. Databases are organized collections of data. In this specific context, these are relational tables. So this is a way to organize a variety of relational tables. And to manage these databases, we often use software called DBMS, or Database Management System. So for example, we have Oracle, that is a very popular one. Postgres, that is the one we are going to use a little bit in this workshop. MySQL, that is used in some places of industry. And now there are some cloud databases such as Amazon RDS that are managed databases in the cloud. To access a table, you need to call it with its corresponding database. So you use the database name dot the table name. Okay, now we are going really into what SQL is after this introduction. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It's a programming language that lets you search or do consultations on data that is located in a database via a DBMS, or a database management system. You have a variety of operations that SQL does. So we have DDL, that is data definition language. This is the language that we use to create the tables or delete them. And we have to be very careful when we delete or drop tables, because we can lose very important data and we don't recover it very easily. We have DML, that are data manipulation language, that helps us like create or modify an existing table, like add a column or remove a column or change the names of the columns. And we have DQL that is the data query language. That is the main one that we're going to focus on this workshop, as is the most useful for us as people that work with data. And this helps us retrieve data from tables. So we are going to begin with a little bit of the commands. You don't have to memorize them, but it's good to know them. We start with the select command. This is the main command that we're going to use for all the queries. And is used to select different tables from different columns from a given table. So here we see that we can select the column 1 and column 2 and a given number of columns from, and here is where you put the table name. If we want to select all the columns instead of typing them all out, we can use the asterisk keyword to facilitate this operation. There are a variety of things you can do with the select, like if you only want unique records, you can use the distinct command alongside the select to only bring the records that are unique in the table. For example, if you have duplicates, that is very common in some databases, it's very useful to use unique to search for the unique records. And the last thing is that you can also limit the number of records. If you have, for example, a transactional table that has, I don't know, 5 billion records, and you only want to see like 5, you can use the limit command at the end of the select to give the number of records you want to bring from the database. Okay, here is the where command. The where command lets you filter the records in a query. So when you use select, you bring all the information you can, or if you limit what the limited information you want. But let's say you want to find very specific information. So this is where the where command comes in. So you have to stipulate a condition, normally a logical condition. So you can use these operators, such as equal or not equal, greater than or less than, between. This is very useful for dates, like if you want to search, I don't know, transactions between May and April, April and May, sorry. So you can use between to do this type of operation. And we also have and or. These are logical operators that helps us use multiple conditions alongside each other. So for example, one basic example is I want to select all the columns from the customers table where the customer ID is 1. So this will bring me pretty much only the first customer or the customer that has the ID number 1. We have now order by. These commands helps us sort the results from a query based on 1 or more columns. You can define these as ascending or descending order using these keywords. So here is an example. And these are very important. These are the aggregate functions. So these are commands that helps us combine the values of multiple rows into a single value. So you use an aggregate function, you put the parentheses, and you put the column name in between, and you can use it alongside the where condition, for example. These are some of the operations that you can use in aggregate functions. So count to count the number of values, max to find the maximum value in a column, min to find the minimum value, sum to sum all the values, and average to do just the average of a numeric column. So very used command for exploring a table is select count asterisk from a given table. This helps us bring the number of records that we have in that table. Now we go to the group by command. This command helps us group columns into summary rows, and we often use them with aggregate functions. So we are going to use an example because this is a little abstract. So let's say we want to know the customers that spend the most during May. So we want to know which are the customers that spend the largest amounts in a given month. So let's say we have the select, a customer name, the sum of the total purchases from the purchases table where the month is May, and the group, and we group by the customer name. So this helps that the sum will be done for each customer and the result will be reflected in front of that customer. And we can order that result to know which are the customers that spend the most in order. Now, I think this is one of the final ones and one of the most important ones, that is the join command. This helps us join two tables to do a query. Let's say you have an order table and a customer table, and you want to know which is the customer that orders the most, or which customer orders are they currently. So we can use this command to join both tables and do a variety of operations with those tables. Normally you write it in the front part of the select. So you put the left table, the right table on, and this is the column which should match between the two. So let's say you have order ID in one column, and you have the order table with customer ID, and you have customer with customer ID. So you can join them on that specific column. There are a variety of join types. For example, the inner join, that is the basic join that is by default, returns only the records that match in both tables. So the ones that in the column you specified have the same value. You have the left and right join, that is that they return all the records from the corresponding table, the left or the right, plus the matching records from the other one. And you can also do a full join, that is basically to concat two tables alongside, so you return all the records from both tables. So let's look at an example. We want to contact the customer of order 53, 54, 50, 51 for a refund, and we have these tables. So we have the order table that has an order ID, a customer ID, and a date. We have the customer table that has the customer ID, the name, and the contact number. So what we want to know is the contact number and maybe the name of the customer, but we have to begin by the order. So what we are going to do is we do a select, we bring the customer's name, the customer's contact, and maybe the order date to just clarify to the customer. And in the from section of the select, we put the first table, orders, inner join, customers, on the same column that both of them have, that is customer ID. Okay, now, sorry for giving you all that information. I know it's not the most fun part, but we can begin with the case, the murder case. And we will be using SQL to find out what happened. And I will give a brief introduction to the case now. So you finally survived enough to go on a vacation to the Caribbean, but as soon as you arrive to your vacation, you receive an important call from your boss. He's saying that a big customer of yours is having a launch party in his private island and is experiencing a big problem in the code that your team work on. As you are the closest one to the private island, he wants you to go. He will pay for all the expenses and the travel. So he's asking you for help. You reluctantly agree to go after there is a mention of a bonus. So you arrive to the island and you're surprised to meet the billionaire himself, that is, sorry about this, William Dors. He's the CEO of Pineapple and an eccentric billionaire, as you can see from his island. He welcomes you to the island. He gives you a key card for access to the various rooms in the compound. And he tells you that before he introduces you to the problem, he's going to welcome you and let you know some of the VIP guests that arrived to the island. So first he introduces you to his current wife, Veronica Dors. She is a philanthropist. You're surprised to see her there because you have heard rumors that they are going into a divorce battle. So she's soon to be his ex-wife. He also introduces you to Emmanuel Jamir. He's his business partner from a long time ago and the CTO of Pineapple. And finally, he introduces you to his own son, Peter Dors. He's his own son and he's quite a funny character. You know him from some tech interviews where he has launched a variety of startups and all of them fail. But now he has gained a spot as lead developer in the current project of Pineapple. After chatting a little bit with Will, he mentions that his son has looked into the problem and it's not that big of a deal. So he is very sorry that you came all the way to just not do anything. So he welcomes you to a party and to stay and to leave tomorrow after the boats arrive in the morning because there are no more boats at this current time. So he says, just enjoy the event and let's start the celebration. So before the launch, you are just wandering about. You are severely under stress, so you don't make a lot of conversation with all the VIP guests. But you meet that you are close to Bill when he meets with his wife Veronica. They are starting to talk about their divorce and how Will is trying to not give her any money. So she's pressuring him to sign the divorce papers, but he doesn't want to. At the end, she just gives him some of the hard medicine he left in his other private island, and she reminds him to take it because he has a severe heart problem. After that, she leaves. Will stays with you, and you don't really talk that much because what are you going to say to a billionaire? But then Emmanuel appears. He gives Will a bottle of wine, and he congratulates him in the lunch. They begin to speak very secretly between the two of them, like they are chatting in a very low voice, so you can hear them. But at the middle of the argument, they begin to yell at each other, and Emmanuel is very angry about the lunch, and he says that they should stop it. Emmanuel points at you, and Peter Will points at Peter, and at the end, Emmanuel storms out of the main hall. Finally, Peter appears, and you are very worried that they don't see you, that you are invisible to them because they keep having their conversations near you. Peter wants to start another startup and to leave his position at Pineapple. His dad says that he moved a variety of things to get him there, and he should be thankful because all his startups fell. They go into a little bit of a discussion, but at the end, Will just says, we talk about this after the event. So finally is the time for the big announcement. Will introduces Doorcoin. Doorcoin is the new product of Pineapple. It's a centralized digital currency. The main idea here is that you have a digital currency that you can use in your phone and you can travel the world around with it by exchanging all the currencies that are currently in all the known countries. Will introduces this product by purchasing a large amount of coins himself, and then some of his investors start also putting a lot of money. So there is a small dashboard with the presentation where you can see that there are already 10K users, and one coin is already valued at $50 more or less. He's very proud of this product, and he says that his own son was the lead developer of the product. So it's a family venture for him and others. Well, after the launch, you proceed to rest up a bit, and it's already close to midnight, so you want to go with other guests to your own room. when suddenly Will appears and asks you to come with him. He has a problem with the Wi-Fi of the island. He mentions that he's very bad with technology and that he always keeps losing his phone and he is always forgetting everything about technology. So if you could help him with the Wi-Fi. So you decide to go with him to the studio. There is where the Wi-Fi is. Sorry. So you fix the Wi-Fi just by plugging it and unplugging it from the wall. And then you hear a big thud from the main hall. It seems that Will went to recover something that he left there, but suddenly he collapsed. You can see it from the security table, security cameras in the studio. And then something happens. A lockdown procedure begins and every room in the island is closed. So you try to leave, but no one is able to leave. So you are in the studio and you suddenly hear a call from the intercom system from the island. It's from Emmanuel. He says to everyone that they should calm down. This is just a procedure that he developed for Will in case something happened to him, like some of his health issues started acting up, or that he was possibly dead in case of a murder. So you are very worried because you cannot leave the studio and you have to wait here. Emmanuel says that the lockdown will be disabled in the morning where the first boat arrives and that the authorities are already in their way. Veronica says that this is very weird, why Will is not responding. She's trying to call for him yelling, but he's not responding. And finally, Peter appears in the intercom and he says that you were the last person seen with him. So you are the main suspect of whatever happened to Will. You try to plead your case, but no one is hearing you, and they are all very worried about Will, but because of the lockdown, nothing can be done for now. So you decide to investigate for yourself with what you have in the studio. You find that Will's personal computer is in the studio, so you decide to take a look and maybe figure out what happened to Will with the limited time you have before the first boat arrives. So time to solve the case. First, we will start with a relational table that if you have played Clue, maybe you know. This is the murder suspects. So we have a row for each of the suspects and some columns, such as which is the suspect, which is the motive that they may have to murder Will, which are the opportunities and their alibi for what they were doing at the time of the supposed murder. So we will start by filling out this table with our suspicions. So we think maybe Veronica wants to kill him because of the separation. She wants to finalize the divorce. Jamir, maybe because of the business difference you saw that they have earlier. And Peter because of the inheritance. Maybe he wants to start his business as soon as possible and the inheritance is the best way to do it. What opportunities each of them have? Veronica gave him some harm medication. Maybe she put something in there. Emmanuel had left early, so maybe he set up something or even the wine bottle that he gave him. And Peter, they did have a chat after the lunch, so maybe he did something there. So we will start by looking at the databases that are available in his computer. He left his password in a post-it, and so you are able to use everything that he has in his computer. These are the databases that he has. He has a Dogecoin database. We assume is the product that he's launching, and a personal one where he keeps personal information for himself. The Postgres one is just a default one that every Postgres starts with. So we have these personal tables. We have the contact book, which we think is where he stores his close contacts. He has a log for a key access log. That is a log where the key cards that he gave each of the host or the guest have the information where they were in the island at each point. And he has a transactional table where he keeps all the transactions that comes and goes from his bank account. So we will start with the first query. I'm gonna try to change the screen. Let's see if I'm successful. Okay. So here we have the Postgres database. And now think that maybe the letter will be too small. So let me check on that. Okay. I don't know. Can you see the screen, guys? Or what I type?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Thank you.
And the font is right for me. I don't know if someone else has some problems.
Yeah, let us know before we start. Okay, I think here. Okay. So we will start with the most basic query that we have. That is a select with all the columns from the contact book. So we write the query and we can execute it using Postgres. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. So here we have the results of the table. We have a contact book table, which has an ID, the first name of the contact, the last name, an email, a gender, a keycard ID that we think is related to the keycard table, and a bank account that we think may be useful with the transactional table. So we can see that the first three contacts in Will's contact book are the main suspects. So his wife, Veronica, his son, Peter, and Emmanuel. So we are going to use this information to be able to look for them in the other tables and maybe find something suspicious or something that we might consider important. So here is the first query that we did, select from all the contact book. Now we want to check the transactions. So we're going to start with the transactions. Oh, sorry, I'm presenting in the other slide. I don't know how to do both at the same time. Well, let's leave it here. So we now want to check the transactions. So, okay, we can see that we have a transaction ID, a destination account, a detail, an amount, and a transaction time. Okay, but if we wanted to check each of these ones, we can see that there are a lot of transactions. And it's not very clear which person is which based only on the destination account. So we can also verify that we have a lot of transactions using the count operator to check that there are currently 1001 transactions. So now we want to check, hey, maybe which is the largest transaction? Maybe someone did steal something from him and then decide to kill him. So now we'll go check, or maybe there is something suspicious in the transactions. So we could just do select max and use the amount column, for example. If we are a little bit lost, we can use also here. Here we can see the tables, and you can check the columns for each table here. This is very useful. So transactions, columns. Okay, we have the amount table, so that will give us which is the maximum amount. Now this brings us a large number, but we don't know for what transaction is or nothing like that. So we are going to change the query a little bit. We are going to add the detail column because we think that detail is important to know which transaction was which. And then we are going to order by the amount in descending order. And as we don't want many transactions, we can use also the limit operand to just say, hey, we want the 5 largest transactions that are organized by the amount. So we can see here that the largest detail, well, the largest transaction was the purchase he did earlier for Dogecoins, is around $3,000 million. So a large purchase. And the rest of the transactions are for very mundane stuff, for industrial, for the garden, or for the home, or for the health. So we don't know much about those. But now we can use this alongside the contact book to check for each of the suspects. So now we can use a join. So we want to join transactions with the contact book. On here is where the columns we are going to use for that join are going to be for contact transactions dot destination account equals. Here we want that the match is equal to the contact book bank account. Sorry, don't know if I got it right, so we can check the column name. Yeah, and we only want the suspects, so we can use the where, the contact book. Here we have to reference which table are we going to look for the column first. For the column name, first name is Veronica, for example. So I know it's quite a large statement, but we can go step by step to dissect it. So we have select detail. We want the detail and the amount from the transactions, but we also want to filter the ones that are by the contact name Veronica. Okay, I got contact book. Okay, now we can see the different details for the and amounts. We can see that Veronica only gets money for groceries, luxury gifts, or some donations, maybe for her philanthropy. But there is nothing we're here about some large purchase or something like that. Well, large for a billionaire, I suppose. Can check Peter. So we have money for startups and allowance and some payroll, which seem not to deviate too much. And finally, we can use Emmanuel. Oh, so he pays him some donations. That's very weird. So we can take that into account. Like Emmanuel has only donations for his account. Okay, I don't think we can search for more here in transactions. So we can just move on to the key log. So we can start all of these again. Key access log. Okay, so we have the access log ID, a key card, the event, and the hour of the event. We can use this to find out what suspect was doing what at what time. Sorry for that tongue twister. So we can use this again. Sorry. Um, sorry for the wait. So here we have the record for Veronica. Oh, we select all the tables, but maybe we just want the event and the hour instead of everything. So we see that she goes into the main hall at 4 p.m. She exits the main hall at 9:30. She goes into her guest room, that is 101, and she leaves at 10 p.m. and then she goes into the guest room 102. That's kind of weird. We can now check Emmanuel. He goes into the studio at 3:38. He exits the studio at 3:58. He goes into the main hall at the same time you arrive, so that matches what you've seen. And he exits the main hall at the time of the event, as we saw that he starts earlier. He then goes to his own guest room, that is 102, which is the same one that Veronica ended up with. And if we check Peter, okay, Peter doesn't seem to have any car. That's weird. Okay. So now I'm going to change the presentation back again. So here are some of the queries that we did. Here we use the IDs instead of the names. What we found. So based on these queries, there are some things that we found. The largest transaction was for the new product door coin. Veronica and Emmanuel were at the same room, and we weren't able to see this one because of a mistake, sorry. But Peter was in the main call for the longest time, but he left for his room at midnight. So now we can check the door coin tables. So there are 3 tables in door coin. The first one is coins, that are the coins purchased by each user, purchases, the purchases of pineapple products with coins, and users, that is the users of the application. I will have to go a little bit faster because I think we are very close to the Q&A time. So sorry about that, but we will go very fast in this section of the live coding section. So first, we're going to check the user count, because we don't know nothing about these tables. We are just getting to know them. So first, we're going to do a basic select from, and oh, sorry, we need to do this in the coins database. So coins, we can do this. We just want to know what is inside the coins table. We can say that there is a purchase ID, a user ID, a currency, a value, and the number of coins that they get from that value. As we can see, the purchase seems a little bit low for the number of coins that each of the users is getting. Then that seems weird. And if we use the select coins, select count to know the number of purchases, we can see that there are only 1,000 purchases, which is weird considering that we saw that there are 10K users. So we're going to use this also for the users to corroborate. And there is also 1,000 users. So something strange is happening with the tables. Okay. Sorry, I have to go a little bit fast here. Now we want to check the value of the coin. We saw in the presentation that it was basically like $50 for one coin. So what we're going to do is we're gonna divide the value by the coins, where the currency is USD, that is the dollar. As this is very confusing to read, we are going to use a summary function. So we're going to do average. So we want to know the average value of a coin for the USD. And we can see that it's very low. It's almost like 23 cents for one coin, where at the beginning of the night, it was like $50. We also want to check the purchase that Will did. He put like $3,000 million. So we want to corroborate that the purchase is there. So we're gonna use order by again, by the amount, and we're gonna do descendant, and we have a limit of 5. Amount. Sorry. Did I write wrong? I have to check the table here. Coins. Oh, sorry, it's value. So we can see the largest value that anyone has put is like 10 euro. So Peter, sorry, Will's transaction is nowhere here. So that is a little bit odd. Finally, we want to check the purchases. So let's check some of the purchases. So we have that people can buy pineapple products with the coins. So for example, a car is 1,000 coins. But if we know that the current value of the coin is 23 cents, then this value is very low. So we can use, for example, item coins. We are going to multiply it by the current value of the coin. And we can see that we're going to use group by item. Here is average. So we want to go now the average coin in USD that people are buying the products for. So we can see here that they are buying a car for like $230, an iPad or the equivalent in pineapple for $4 and such. So that is something strange that's going on there. So I'm going to return here. So what we found, sorry about the speed run there. The user count doesn't match the one, oh, sorry, the Q&A.
Christian, sorry, I think we are running out of time. So,
oh yeah, sorry.
We have like 6 minutes. So maybe you can try to make a summary.
Yeah,
for
sorry about that. Sorry about that. So time for the reveal. So the lockdown is finally off and you are able to enter the room with the authorities where Will is located. You found that his phone is under the sofa and that's why you didn't see anything from the security footage. All the VIP guests arrive and you want to show them what really happened. So what you think happened is that normally in development, you have a script that deletes all the tables while you are doing tests before a big launch. And what you think happened is that no one deleted this file when the big launch happened. And that is why your boss called you. So you normally have to delete this file or the tables are deleted after the test that normally go in software development. So what happened is that the script did run at midnight, deleting all the databases from the Torcoin and then recreate it anyway, but without the records. Then the coin began to lose a lot of value because of this problem, because people invested a lot of money in there, and then the counts appear as 0. And then Will, most likely when you turn on the Wi-Fi, was able to see the news of the big crash in his phone. And then he had a big heart attack because he didn't take the medicine that his wife brought him. Okay, now the authorities take your statement. They want to verify everything you said was true, and Peter corroborates, and Emmanuel says, yeah, that is probably what happened. So you are free to go. You return to your vacations, and you're able to tell your boss that you're not coming back because of everything you went through. So the conclusions of the talk is SQL is a very powerful tool that is able to extract useful information that we can turn into insights for our business at work. If we have structured data from the early beginning, we can use SQL to navigate this. And a majority of the world relies on relational databases nowadays, from banks to passwords to social media and all major software applications.